Web Girls, where women were so hungry for an outlet, a network, a resource about cannabis that wasn't, I put into quotation marks, the stoner culture. Nothing against that. It's just different for
it's
a
just
mom.
not where we are in life, right? I mean,
it's not our life stage.
And
right, exactly.
And we want to reach, I think, and I think it's so important to reach women and women like us, women who are having, painful sex because of menopause, or are overcoming alcohol or drug addiction, or who are trying to get out of the bottle and need, recovery, chronic pain. It's endless. And
it really is. And so when we talk to brands, so we, on one side of our company, we are, I call it the public facing side. We are reaching women and empowering them with better information about cannabis and CBD and products and the brands that are trusted, that we trust. And then on the business side of things, we partner with brands, educate them about how to better reach women. We give them interesting ways of actually reaching women, which is very hard for cannabis companies to do. So, and they're part of our education piece. So I think building both sides of that business has been really interesting. And the gatherings are that real world physical touch point that you don't get in social media, that you don't get in advertising. I think it's really unique, and we're building these spaces that feel warm and welcoming.
And I'll tell you, the women I meet are so hungry for it and continue to return, because I think everybody's sort of craving that physical in-person thing again. I think we all kind of got away from that with the internet for a while.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's not just a cannabis thing. I think you're right. It's a part of women's lives. And so we say to the brands, the women that we target, even though we end up reaching beyond our target, which just proves how much Element is really needed. But the women we target are 35 plus. And we say that because it is the perimenopausal and the menopausal woman. And in those life stages, we're in very deep, immense life transitions. And the hormonal aspect of it is especially daunting, because for 10 years, when you're in perimenopause, the ups and downs become really drastic. And if you have anything else, endometriosis or anything else in terms of your reproductive health, it just goes haywire. And then menopause itself presents a whole new set of kind of ugly, pretty darn unpleasant, and not at all talked about symptoms, because everyone's embarrassed. So you said it. You said painful sex, and oh my God,
it's not even. I don't understand how we didn't learn about this previous to then the onslaught of it. You're right. I mean, the changes are so dramatic. But then as I look back, what's interesting is I wish I had something like Elementa when I was in my 20s, because it was a whole different set of struggles. In my 40s, it's been menopause and, just getting old. And in my 20s, it was dealing with addiction. And I tell people, for me, cannabis was like my last stance, my last chance, and it should have been my first.
Right. And at that point, we just didn't really know.
But I mean, the thing that's really neat, though we're seeing the 40 plus audience. I mean, across the board, it's 21 to 75.
It really is. It really is. And I think that's, again, a testament to creating a welcoming space, to building trust. And I think that's a challenge for every cannabis company out there. And even especially right now, CBD companies, believe it or not, the trust factor is so difficult, because there's a lot of snake oil salesmen out there, salespeople out there. And everyone's jumping on the CBD wagon right now because it's, again, in quotation marks, legal. It's not exactly legal everywhere, but people think that it is, and therefore they are just glomming on to that industry, and a lot of them don't even know what they're doing. Oh. And so women, especially who are making the major decisions in the household about the kinds of medicines, alternative remedies, treatments, products that they're bringing into the home, are so confused and overwhelmed. And so building trust is a major factor. And I think if I have to brag about anything at all about our company, the fact that we are so values-based, so transparent, kind of to a fault, but I don't think it's a fault. I think it's a benefit that we've been able to build in such a short time, not only a vast network, but a trust-based network. And that's what we pass on to our brands that we work with. And that's why we vet our brands very carefully.
Well, and I love that that our audience and the women in our lives, not even just our audience, but our family, our mothers, our sisters, that we can, even outside of Elementa, that we're learning this information. So it's not just happening in the rooms of Elementa, but we're sharing it out there. But yeah, I came into this not knowing what I didn't know. And I think a lot of women don't know what to even ask. We don't know what we don't know. Mm-hmm. So it blew my mind about a year ago when I learned that people were growing cannabis with pesticides. It literally blew my mind. I didn't even think that I would have to check on something like that. I just figured it'd be organic because it's a plant.
Mm. And I didn't know about, and I can't ever pronounce it for some reason, propylene glycol. Oh, I said it right.
Yeah, you did.
I did not know anything about propylene glycol. And I didn't understand that there were many different extraction processes, and some of them did not require the use of really toxic chemical additives. And learning about that helped me become a better consumer and then to understand that there were other forms of cannabis that companies were producing that were much more pure and clean. And so just even knowing that, because I'm the label reader, I go down the aisle of the grocery store and I pick up everything that's packaged, and I try to avoid as much packaged food as possible. But when you're a busy mom with 3 kids and a job and a company, you have to save time. And so I read the label. And if I can't pronounce it, I just put it back. And so it's the same thing.
That's so interesting. And I noticed that about you. You read all the labels. And I am the exact opposite, because I feel like I have just been spoon fed all of this my whole life. And now I'm finally waking up. Mm-hmm. But what I find interesting that I pay most attention to, let's just say we're talking about any industry, is the brand. Mm-hmm. Is it talking to me? Does it match my values? Mm-hmm. Is it something that I can use? And that has always caught me. You're the label reader, and I'm looking for the messaging from the brand.
Mm. Well, I'm also very brand loyal. So when I enter into the brand space because of what ingredients they use, I also do notice, as a marketer for 30 years, definitely do notice their messaging, their packaging. I pay attention to every sort of way that they communicate as well, but that's usually not what brings me to the brand itself. I think recommendations are also another way that I find out, and that's why Elementa is so interesting to me, because we can learn about other products from women, and not that those products will work well for us, but it's just opening up our eyes to the variation that's out there. I think from the brand standpoint, what's really important to me is values-based and is an attention to either organic, free of pesticides, non-GMO. I really do like to hear that. I just we all hope that they're being honest about that. I think
that it's not regulated at this point.
Not as closely as it should be.
Right.
And I think many of us are finding this out by trial and error. And I think that's also part of why the Elementa Network is helpful, because we're learning from other people who have tried many different things and are figuring this out for us. And so by sharing knowledge, by sharing our stories, by sharing our experiences, by sharing our learnings, we are each providing wisdom. So Elementa becomes this collective wisdom from women at different stages of life. So I think that's also really important, because you mentioned before, we reach 20-something women all the way up to 70s and 80-something women. And what's really good for a young woman who's menstruating is not good for a middle-aged woman who is in menopause. I got to tell you that, because I've already experienced an issue with a very high quality product that was clearly very effective. But then when I tried it, it was a sexual wellness product. When I tried it as a menopausal woman, it triggered all my menopausal symptoms. So when we talk about cannabis as medicine, it really is. And we really need to pay attention, especially as women, what we're bringing into our bodies and what we're putting into or on the bodies of our loved ones.
Absolutely. I mean,
I think
I love that the other piece of what we do, to segue too, because I don't know. I mean, I'm sure some of the audience knows that it's impossible to use Facebook, Instagram marketing, paid marketing, or Google. You can't do anything with cannabis and marketing. And so, what I love is that we can work with brands and create that buzz before they even hit the shelves. That to me is so fascinating, because it's so hard. Like that, and then I want to ask you the challenges of this industry, because I think for me as a marketer, the fact that I can't just pop on an ad on Facebook, it's so difficult.
Mm-hmm. And that's a problem we're solving.
Yes.
So that's what I do love about our company is we are solving marketing and sales challenges that are being faced by cannabis and CBD brands. And so it is very challenging, because we've had to circumvent the whole Facebook and Google limitations from a marketing standpoint just for Elementa. Even though we don't touch the plant, we are an ancillary business. Just the very fact we mention the word cannabis turns it into somewhat of a barrier, but we can circumvent because we aren't selling cannabis. And we also have that in-person piece. We have a lot of private forums and very private, direct ways that we reach women. And that is not being suppressed. And so because we can circumvent those challenging areas, we can offer our platform to brands. And again, we vet the brands. If they have product, one of us on our team or somebody we know and trust actually tries the product and makes sure that it does what it says it does.
That is one of my very favorite parts, is getting to test a lot of these products.
It is. I was going to say, is she going to say getting to test the product?
I mean, someone's got to do it.
Guys, that's a tough job.
Sometimes it is.
Well, I like to test the CBD products, the topicals, the pain topicals. I am the CBD girl. With my arthritic neck, I have a very, very specific type of pain and a very chronic or at times acute pain that I can tell immediately if a product works. And without going into the details of the difference between THC and CBD and hemp-derived CBD versus cannabis derived CBD, etc.
You have a book coming out on that we can read, right?
Yeah, look, nice segue. I do. I have in June. It'll be an essential guide to cannabis and CBD, which does outline in detail the differences between these products that we're seeing on the shelf and the different claims that they make, and scientifically what actually happens